really well. So who is with us tonight? Let me just join the live too on my laptop so I can see the comments box and see what everybody's saying. Oh, there's loads of you here tonight. Hello, everybody. Mr. Atkinson, can you do a correction on stripy level 8/9 highlights from roots medium brown, ash brown hair into caramel balayage just for mid lengths and ends? She never wants to go blonde. Well, Kay, I saw that pop up on my feed a minute ago, and I actually have a video about correcting stripy highlights. If you would like to check that out, send me. Are we friends on Instagram? If we're not friends on Instagram, we might be friends on Facebook. If we're friends on any of these things, send me a DM. And I will send you the video. And if that's not what you're looking for, then maybe I could make an independent video for you at some stage. Hi, Tina. Hi, Tina. How are you? Good evening, Angela. Hi, Gary. Adrian. I never 100% know how to pronounce your name. Probably people have realised by now I'm like terrible with names. So the other day I did it into Google, and then so I could pronounce it properly and feel confident about it, but I forgot what it said. But I'm going to say Adrian. Adrian? Thumbs up if that's right. Rainy day here. Where are you, Tina? Where's it raining? Where's it raining? You're up north, aren't you? Adrian. Adrian. I've got it right then. Babysitting again. You're very good, Tina, for babysitting again. Right, who else we got here? Sandy, hi, how's it going? Jane's with us. Who else have we got? Jackie, hi. Kirsty. Who else we got? Tony B, hi. Hi, April. Evening all. My first live. So excited, as it's normally only able to watch the lives back. Welcome. Thanks for catching up with us. Hi, Kerry. Who else we got here? We've got Academy Marianne. Hi, good evening. Who else we got? No, Dean. I did Google it, honestly. I always feel like, because I read your comments all the time, and when I say it into my phone, it seems to come up right, but then when I say it out loud, it just doesn't sound right. Anyway, I promise I'll get it right. Even if it means phoning you, I'll get it right. Right, crikey, there's loads of you on here tonight. Very, very good, everybody. So, wonderful. So tonight we are going to be talking all things balayage from last week's live, where we were talking classic balayage. So for those of you that have seen it, for those of you that are at All Access Patreon, we went and did this technique, and it's a very simple kind of express balayage type of technique, where it creates nice multi-dimensional texture. It's super quick, super easy to do. And really just wanted to kind of touch on the really important parts of that particular technique, if you will. So, one of the main aspects of what we talked about was not only just the breakdown of the head, which we'll have a little look at in a minute. Did you pin curl the model? No, Kerry. I actually used an experimental hair tool, which will be coming to more the Life of Hair channel. For any of you that haven't seen any of the posts I've made about that, I've started a new YouTube channel. It's about it's all about kind of just sharing hair inspiration and some product reviews, and it's less about kind of tutorials like the Life of Hair is about. Did I hear about K18? Yes, I did hear about this K18. I took a screenshot of it. This is this revolutionary new treatment, isn't it, that everybody's going on about? And basically, got this tool, started this new channel where I was like, yeah, that's where I was at. So I've done a review of the tool that created the curls that did that. and that will be probably posted on Wednesday this week. So yeah, hopefully you'll get to see it then. But no, it wasn't pin code. It does look like it was a bit pin code, I guess, and brushed out, but it wasn't. So good. Right then, everybody, where are we at? We are at oh, I saw your pop up then. Kind of like Olaplex, but better, and it won't wash off. Wow, very exciting stuff. Yeah, so like products like Olaplex, you know, are a bond that is dissolvable for anybody that's kind of unsure. If it's mixed with another chemical, and over time the bond will kind of break down and dissolve. So you have to use the number 3, basically, in a nutshell, to keep the service alive. You've got to think of it like feeding it like plant food, Olaplex. And so if you don't do that, then there's actually kind of limited effect, I suppose, from you doing the treatment in the first place, because by the time they've come back for another treatment, it's worn away. So you will get limited, obviously, you will limit the amount of damage you create, step 1. But then as time goes on and the product diminishes, you know, it creates a more damage. Sorry, it creates equal amount of damage, because the bonds are stronger than hydrogen bonds and disulfide bonds, but they're more easily dissolved, or they do dissolve, whereas hydrogen bonds and disulfide bonds don't dissolve. Just for everybody's interest, just so that everybody knows where we're at with that. So just a quick heads up, whilst it's locked down again, I'm just doing lives on Wednesday night. They're Q&As this time, they're not like full-blown tutorials. Bring your questions. If you think of any questions between now and Wednesday, and you want, you know, you've got a definite question you want to ask, then definitely jump on Wednesday, and you know, bring your questions. I'm going to read out some of the comments that people have put on, so we can all just learn from each other, just telling you about some of the things that are coming just while it shot through my mind. But we're going to talk a little bit about that particular technique that we did in last week's Patreon live, over on for the all access Patreons, and just kind of give you a breakdown and understanding of, you know, I think a lot of the questions that I get about balayage, especially when I'm running classes, is the idea that we're not saturating the hair quite as much as people want to. Because what I tend to find is when people are doing balayages, they're thinking like highlights. They're thinking that they need to do just as many sections, or you know, a lot of sections with their looks to kind of make a balayage work. And actually, it's really, you've got to, you know, you've got to change the way you think about that, because 1, a balayage should be faster than a set of highlights, and 2, it should have more dimension. So if it's neither of those things, then you obviously need to kind of reevaluate how we go about these particular techniques. And so I did this particular look from 0, no color, just so that everybody could see that when we're creating these looks, you know, from 0, you can actually get a fair amount of color in by not painting a huge amount of sections. So if you just give me 2 seconds while I just adjust this. But on that note, who loves to balayage and who doesn't love to balayage? Tell me in the comments box. Love it, hate it. Just put love it, hate it. I'm going to do a bit of a technical. Don't know, I'm scared, says Sandy. Cool. Love it, says Gary. What we got here? There's like 50 people watching. Hold on. And only 12 likes. Isn't that too fair to James? Bless you. Thank you. Learning to love it, says Tony. Don't balayage on bases darker than a 7 unless they want copper. Fair enough. At least you know what they can have, you know? And that's something that I do talk about, funnily enough. I do talk about, you know, doing balayages, doing techniques where you feel comfortable that you can deliver the result that the people want, you know. And if you're not comfortable with balayaging hair above a level 7, then that's what you tell people, you know. That's the reality. That's up to you, not the client. So I really like that. I really like that comment, actually. Love it, but struggle on top section, says Jane. Can't always decide which technique to go with. Angela, I've got a great piece of advice, and this might be helpful to other people out there as well. And the kind of reality of balayage techniques is that when you go on the internet, there's just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and thousands of people trying to own a specific technique. And here's my advice: find 2 techniques that you can just practice. It doesn't matter what 2 techniques, just if you like the finished result, if they give a result that you like the look of, learn those 2 techniques. Just learn those 2 techniques. Don't diversify, just focus in on 2 techniques. Learn to root smudge, really important in the world of balayaging. Learn to root shadow, that's also fairly important, but they're in the same realms, and that, you know, no one's really kind of doing anything different in those worlds. But, you know, make sure that you know, you're drilling down, you're focusing your attentions on making sure that you are a master of 2 specific techniques, and that's really the best thing you can do. What else we got here then? Done a ribbon weave balayage a few times. What have we got here? Tina Wells, only balayage in foil, but tend to go to get the darker hair clients. Yes, Tina, that is a reality. If your client's got really dark hair, then you probably, you know, do need a foil technique to kind of make that work. So that is something really important to think about. Soon to be the full Monty hair. Love it, as I had a good teacher. Thank you very much. Love balayage in foil, but not freehand, says Felicia. Can you do balayage on white hair using tint? Yes, you can reverse a balayage. I've got a video on that on my channel. It's just called Reverse Balayage, I think. It's been a very popular video. It's something that people aren't always sure about. So basically, you do a root stretch, you pick out some chunky pieces and you pull through the root color, and then you leave out some texture. And this is what I'm saying about balayage techniques in general, is that when we look inside a balayage technique, this is the one we did last week, the one I'm about to talk about, there's contrast. There's light and dark and light and dark and light and dark. And that creates contrast separation, new word, contrast and separation. So none of this was like heavily saturated. Everything you see here, it started out as this, it had no color in it previously, and everything we did in this, in the live that I did on my Patreon last week, was 2 weeks ago, sorry, was all surface hair painting. So we didn't saturate the underneath at all. Right then, let's see, what's the difference between a root smudge and a root shadow? Good question. I'll draw it. Hold on a minute, I'm having a technical glitch trying to get my head images. Oh, I know what to do. I know what to do. Think fast, James. That's what you do in these situations. Head sheets. Wonderful. Right then. Great. Got a result. Okay, so we're going to look at just top down, you know, bird's eye view, so that we can kind of just see it. I'm going to draw it on here, and then you guys, I'll show it to you guys when we talk about it. So we're going to look down from the top. We are going to pretend that this, let me just change the color of that line. So this red line that we see on the screen, can everybody see that? There we go. Right, so that red line is the parting, just for argument's sake, okay. A root shadow, okay, a root shadow is very, very small. So it would be just to diffuse the parting, okay? So if you did a very, very bright, hi misbehaving, if you did a very, very bright set of highlights, okay, a really bright set of highlights, you see how we've just diffused that straight line. So if there was highlights coming off that were running down the head vertically, like a bit like that, bit random, but you know, there would be a less a root shadow. Whoops, a root shadow would reduce the amount of what's the word I'm looking for, demarcation at the root area here, and you would have a softer grow out. So that's a root shadow. Hopefully that helps to differentiate root shadows. Okay, and now we'll talk about root stretches. So again, we'll put in the parting. And just to make it clearer this time, blends the stitch marks from the highlights. Exactly, Daniel. Perfect, my friend. So there's our parting again. And a root shadow, a root stretch, would start to come down further down the head. Now, a root stretch, in my humble opinion, is really easy to perfect, providing you stretch it to the parietal ridge. Now, who knows where the parietal ridge is? If you know where the parietal ridge is, then say yes in the comments box. Give me a big yes in capitals in the comments box. If you know where the parietal ridge is, then say yes. Yes, good. And if you don't know where it is, just say no. Big capitals, no, and I'll tell you where it is. Right, wonderful. Well, as we all know, the parietal ridge right here, the curvature, perfect, lovely. Right, you don't have to be sad about not knowing. We're here to learn. There's no such thing as a silly question or a bad answer. So every answer is a good answer. The parietal ridge is the curve above the ear, is the best way to describe it. It's right here. So it runs from the temple through the head like that, right round. It changes here at the occipital bone. This is our occipital bone. It changes right there, okay? And then that differentiates the flat sides to the top, okay? So I hope that helps. Good morning, Jamie. That will help you understand the transitions on the head. So a root stretch, and I've got loads of videos on root stretching, and I've got a couple on root shadows as well, needs to meet the parietal ridge. It needs to meet the parietal ridge. So the reason for that is, and I'm going to show you on this mannequin head in a minute, you can see it a little bit clearer. Let me just draw a diagram on the side and show you where it would need to come down at a minimum for a root stretch. Okay, so that would be the minimum position on the head that you would want the root stretch to fall to, the parietal ridge, and you want it to drop down at the tail or towards the occipital bone, and you want it to also drop off the occipital bone. So that is very, very important to remember, guys. Yes, I appreciate it's very difficult for you to see me live, Jamie. Jamie lives in Australia, for everybody who's wondering why it's difficult for him to see me. Well, I never. Good. Right. So when we look at this particular head, right, we look at the parietal ridge. The hair that is above the parietal ridge right here is less movable. If we start to shake it, look how much this hair is moving, and it gets less and less and less and less and less until it comes up to the parietal ridge. We do it on the opposite side. So we shake it, shake it, shake it. And if we look at the parietal ridge, the hair doesn't hardly move at all. So if we don't get the colour to that point, it will just look like a line because the hair doesn't really move. We need to get the hair to the parietal ridge, and then we need to stretch it down. So hopefully that explains it all to you guys. Hopefully that's an added bonus of toning, I suppose. It's one element of what I wanted to talk about tonight. Not necessarily root stretching, but everything that helps you, I'm very pleased. Right then, so what's Daniel said? What do you do when a client parts their hair and tells you it's too dark? Good question. Thank you. Do you think reverse balayage is a good option for white hair, or best stick with thin highlights for easy regrowth? Right, I'll answer Daniel's question first. What do you think when a client parts their hair and they tell it's too dark? Well, there's a couple of options. Obviously, you can just cleansing cream it as long as it's not a permanent colour. If it's a demi-permanent colour, you can just bang a load of cleansing cream, which is generally a highly acidic product, you know, so a highly acidic shampoo. That's why, like Olaplex, that curl's like got a life of its own. That curl's not a hair, it's a dragon. I've got a key ring that says that. So yeah, I mean, the other thing you can obviously do then is kind of mix a bit of bleach powder, bit of peroxide, bit of shampoo, chuck it on, and pray to the gods, you know, that it comes out very, very quickly and you don't start affecting the hair. Because, I mean, if you get a blonde wash on and off like that, shampoo, peroxide, and bleach powder, if you get it on and off, you can nudge it half a level, then you can get away with it. You know, it's kind of a quick fix scenario. If it's not permanent color, if it's a demi-permanent color, then a highly acidic cleansing shampoo. Sometimes I have been known, you know, not in perfect circumstances, but it does work really well. And don't shoot me for this, but washing up liquid. When I did a lot of like fashion week and high fashion stuff, and we wanted to do temporary hair colors on models, and then they didn't want to leave with it, we would put the temporary hair color on, and we would wash it off with fairy liquid rather than bleaching their hair or washing up liquid. But I mean, don't tell your client that. This is between me and you. So, and it obviously fairy liquid is just a very strong shampoo, so it's like no more damaging than bleaching, for instance. You know, it's not as damaging as bleaching. It can't be, because you know it's not as acidic as bleach is alkaline, if that makes sense. So hopefully that helps, but let me just keep reading because I saw you pop a question in. So they're not a root shadow candidate then, just a smudge. Yeah, just a little root smudge. Well, a root shadow is obviously smaller, so you shouldn't really, a root shadow shouldn't be that obvious. Shouldn't be like too obvious, because it's really only 1 centimeter maximum either side of the parting. You know, when you're putting a root shadow on, you know, it doesn't want to be much thicker than, say, this pencil is wide specifically. So, because it is just to diffuse the regrowth. Whereas if you start dragging it down, then you're creating a smudge or a stretch, and then they can start to feel like they're losing their blonde, especially if they like being really blonde. So bear those things in mind when you're doing these techniques. You know, if you've got a client and you know she loves being blonde, she's been blonde for a long time, but she's complaining about the regrowth, maybe start her off with a root shadow before you do a smudge or a stretch, which a smudge and a stretch are probably similar things really, because there's not a point on the head from the parting to the parietal ridge where you can really stop short of that point, because it's just in an area where the hair doesn't really move, so you'll create natural movement, demarcation in it. So hopefully that helps you. Let's read the next one. Thank you. Do you ever do reverse balayage? Is a good option for white hair, or best stick to thin hair? It depends on whether you want to increase their maintenance. So you've got to think of, like, if they've got white hair naturally and then you stick a reverse balayage on them, then yes, you know, you can put reverse balayage on them, but if you do it more than 2 shades darker than their natural color, you have to remember that you'll create a root for them. So it's whether they're willing to have the root, and if you don't do 2 shades darker than their natural color, there's really going to be no differentiation between the two specifically. So that's something to really bear in mind, that when we're thinking about our clients and their, you know, upkeep, if they're happy to have roots, then yes, you could go in with a tint and do someone with a light colored tint. say an 8 or a 7, and create a reverse balayage that way, but they will have a regrowth. So it's all about what the client needs. So hopefully that helps you. Would you change the length of the root stretch for the hair below the parietal ridge? Great question. Yes, if I was doing like an ombre style effect. I wonder if I've got an ombre mannequin head up here. I actually don't. I did have. Oh, it's in the living room. My son's been playing with it. So yes, if you were going to do a ombre, I have got a video on this just for anybody that's interested. So it basically did 2 videos, one about creating a reverse root stretch, and then the subsequent video was about the differences between a balayage and an ombre, and what the separation was and why they were different. So if, for instance, you bring the color down past the parietal ridge and you're wanting to create like a perfect ombre or a bleed or whatever you want to call those technical terms, you probably do want to bring the darker color down to maybe a third of the way down the hair, depending on the length of the hair, and then, you know, stretch that color from the root down into the mids, into the ends, to create that look. And remember, guys, if you're going to create an ombre, you only need 2 colors, generally speaking, because you're going to mix to create your blended color on the head, unless the hair's like waist length. If the hair's waist length, you need a root color, a mid color here, and then an end color, you know, for the rest of it down. But remember, charge for that, because it's going to be a lot of product, you know, 3 bowls, or more than 3 bowls, probably 3 whole bowls of color. So remember, that's going to cost you a lot of product. So do charge for that if you're going to do that. Let's see what else we got going on here. Which different permanent colors and semi-permanent colors? I am from Ganesh from India. So what is the difference? What is the difference? So a permanent color requires 100% requires oxygen to make the product work. So we would call a permanent color a oxygenative. That's an oxygenative dye. It is solely reliant on oxygen from the peroxide to activate the product. It won't do anything without peroxide. Or it needs some kind of activator. So hopefully that makes sense. Now, a true semi-permanent is just a stain on the hair. So whether it be red, yellow, blue, green, brown, whatever, it's just a stain. It's not actually needs any oxygen to make it work. But then you've got demi-permanents, which sit in the middle, or quasi, as some people like to call them. And these colors are both oxygenative and direct dyes in the same tube. So if you've ever used something like Shades EQ, where it's oxygenative and direct dyes, when you apply it, it looks like it's gone really dark. And that's because the direct dye has saturated the hair in pigment. And then by saturating the hair in pigment, it's perceptibly darker. And then the oxygenative dyes take a little while to work, because oxygenative dyes need the cuticles to raise, for the color to penetrate, for them to stay in there. And then obviously post-processing, we close the cuticles, and then for the color stays in the hair. So hopefully that clears that up for you. There's 3 types of color: permanent, which oxygenative; quasi or demi-permanent, which has both semi and oxygenative dyes in one tube; and then you have true semi-permanents, which is usually your crazy colors, that type of thing. Great. Okay, next question. What do you like to do when clients has banded hair? Not your doing, maybe. I'm not perfect. And they want a balayage. Great question. It depends on the situation. I would probably say to somebody who's got banding in their hair that we need to just globally color it to try and get them back into some sort of stable position, if you will. And then once they're in a stable place, then we can go back in and do a balayage afterwards. So it's, for me, It's about creating the stability with a global color first, and then saying to them, okay, because, you know, effectively, if we've got horizontal banding and vertical lines, we're creating a checkerboard or a, you know, chessboard effect. So it's better just to create a clean canvas, a blank canvas, because if they've got noticeable horizontal banding, they are in a color corrective state, and therefore they need to be told that they're in a color corrective state. Now, for instance, the other way around that would be to do like a whole head of highlights, stick a root stretch on, and turn it into a balayage that way. That's obviously a very long-winded job, very expensive, but if the client's got the funds for it and you've got the time, why not? Hopefully that helps. Right then, root shadow with acidic demi, preferably yes. Try and do all your root shadows with, it doesn't necessarily have to be acidic. There aren't actually that many acidic demi permanents on the planet, so I think there's only Redken Shades EQ for definite. And I believe that now Schwarzkopf have got a acidic demi permanent, but everybody else is just above the 7 pH on the pH scale, so they just tip into alkaline. Dialight, I don't know if it's acidic though, actually. I will double check that, but I'm pretty sure it's not actually. The reason I'm sure it's not is because obviously I do some work for L'Oreal. Redken as a brand, it's owned by L'Oreal, and I know that Redken really like to rub it in the face of the L'Oreal guys that, you know, Redken Shades EQ is the only true acidic until very recently. Good question. Is Joico liquid? I don't know. I'd have to ask my friend Paul about that. I actually haven't used Joico liquid. I've used a lot of demi-permanents. I've never used any Joico products for some reason or another. Just never came into contact with them. I would really like to, and I definitely will when we're out of this lockdown. So what have we got? Right then, so fascinating. Thank you. What ratio would you mix for bleach, peroxide, and shampoo? Good question. A third, a third, and a third. So 30, 30, 30, generally speaking. Onto wet hair, you know, and I like to get it on, you know, with my hands, light shampoo on, pile it on, rub it around quick as you can, and just really then just watch it. Don't ever leave a shampoo like that for my own personal taste. If it's something you can leave, it's just a normal bleaching session. So Joico liquid is the bomb. Yeah, I definitely want to try it. I heard good things about it. So it's really important that when we're doing these blonding, remove, you know, blonde washes, whatever you want to call it, blonding surfaces, that, you know, we think to ourselves that it is an observation job. So book it into your column with time to observe it. Don't book it in with time to leave it and walk away, because if it goes too far, you're just making a lot of work for yourself later. What you're really only looking to do with those services is to remove 1 to 2, maximum 2 levels of lift, really. I mean, if you lifted it 2 levels, you've kind of taken it to the maximum of what you're trying to achieve with that. Then you're into bleaching territory, and you know, you're going down a different road. Hopefully that differentiates the two. Right then, someone described the cuticle movement like a new book. Once you've read it, it won't go back to the new quality. That's a really good analogy. Yeah, that's a really good way of thinking about it. Yeah, I mean, I heard someone say on Instagram yesterday about re-virginizing hair. I mean, if that's not a marketing term, I don't know what is. You know, once you've colored the hair, that hair is in that state of color, you know, for until you cut it off. So yeah, you can close the cuticles down, and you can't close the cuticles down in one go. Just a reminder to everybody, you can't close the cuticles down in one go. You can only close cuticles down in stages. So you shampoo, closes the cuticles down a bit, and I always shampoo with a really acidic shampoo because the acidity brings the pH down first of all. Then we go in, especially on bleached hair. I mean, maybe not so much if I was just dyeing someone's hair brown. I probably wouldn't do that because I'd be stripping some of the color with that highly acidic shampoo. So blonde hair we're talking about, highly acidic shampoo. Then I'd probably do a treatment of some description, Olaplex treatment. Now, if I was doing, I know you're supposed to put Olaplex number 1 onto hair before you shampoo it, but I'm not a fan. I like to cleanse it first, close the cuticles down a bit, then go in with my Olaplex number 2 treatment, because if you think about Olaplex number 2, it's designed to go on pre-shampoo, so it's designed to go on cuticles that are a bit more closed anyway. So yeah, I'm a big fan of just getting the product off and just then putting my Olaplex number 2 on. If I'm using Olaplex, I've been using Innerlux recently. Yeah, number 2 is acidic. So basically, the process of reconditioning someone's hair after bleaching is taking it from very alkaline, usually 11 on the alkaline scale, and bringing it back down to something that is more acidic, effectively. So you're not going to necessarily get the hair back to being fully acidic, 4.5 to 5.5, the pH level that hair sits in, because water is 7. So it's always going to be higher until it's dry. Until you remove all the moisture out of the hair, it's always going to be more acidic than its natural state. So, so people say to me, lots of the questions that people ask us, do you put direct dyes onto wet or dry hair? Well, as it hasn't got an activator to open the cuticles, for more longevity, damp the hair, thoroughly towel dry it, and apply it to that, because the cuticles will be raised because of the water, and the colour will penetrate under the cuticles a little bit, and you'll potentially get more longevity dependent on the porosity. Caveat. So hopefully that answers that question. Right then, let me just see what else we got here. Right then, thank you so much for my question. I'm following videos every day. Thank you very much. Yeah, Dialect, not sure about that. What we got here. In your video, you use Shades EQ Demi Color, which is an acidic demi color. Do you ever use alkaline demi colors like Wella or Color Touch? Yes, I do. Yes, I do use. I try and avoid it, you know, as best as possible, because obviously my priority is generally the condition of the hair. The result obviously is important, but the condition is a massive priority. So I do always try and think acidic, 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 especially if the hair's been bleached. The main place I would use, so Redken have discontinued it now, but I used something called HD Res a lot, and it's in a lot of the videos. HD Res is an alkaline demi-permanent. I just like the sheerness of an alkalized demi-permanent. You know, it gives more, not sheerness, sorry, saturated look of an alkalized demi-permanent. It deposits more color. It looks highly deposited. So it gives a very different effect to something that is more sheer, like a Shades EQ, for instance. So, you know, like a good way that I explain it to the clients, it's like tights. You know, you've got different, what's it called, deniers. You know, some that you can see more leg and some that are like, you know, completely leg covering, and permanent colors like a leg covering. And then you've got alkalized demi-permanents, which, you know, you can see less leg, but you can still see a bit more leg than you can with the permanent. And then you've got your Shades EQ type, you know, more acidic, like right on the borderline of being acidic, that you see more of the natural hair coming through. And then you've got your semi-permanent. You know, if you did a semi-permanent brown, then, you know, you're going to get a higher level of opacity to it. And that's the kind of how I explain it to clients, so they can kind of visualize it. So it works really well for them, because obviously you don't want to use too much jargon, but they also want to know you know what you're talking about. So if you use terms that they can relate to, it works a treat. So what we got here: can you turn a balayage into highlights? Yes, yes you can. So for instance, if I just put a set of highlights into this here, now it would obviously connect into this blonde, and then this blonde would melt from the roots into. You'd have to put a lot of highlights in here to get the volume of color you've got down here in one go, so you'd really have to pack them in. And on the first application, you'd put so many highlights in that you'd probably want to do a little root smudge, a root shadow, you know, a root smudge or a root shadow dependent on the client's needs. Probably a root shadow would be the preferable thing to do, just to diffuse the demarcation at the root area. But that would be my kind of you know, way to turn a balayage client into a highlight client. Yeah, most definitely. Please, can you give a brand of acidic shampoo? Yes, I can give a brand of acidic shampoo. Redken Cleansing Cream is the one that I use the most. Bumble and Bumble Sunday shampoo is also acidic. Anything that removes minerals, chlorine, buildup, anything that removes buildup will be acidic, generally speaking. I have heard of alkaline shampoos. I've never encountered one specifically, but generally speaking, they tend to just be on the end of it being a more acidic, a stronger. So think of it like a lemon. A high level of acidity, around 2/3 on the acidity scale. It's fairly astringent. It will lift off all sorts of things. So that's the sort of terms to look for. Pretty much every range. Pretty much every range will have some form of acidic shampoo. They might not kind of advertise it like that as such, whereas like Redken advertises cleansing cream as they only sell it to you can't buy it as a consumer cleansing cream. You could buy it online probably, but if you're a stockist of L'Oreal Redken, you can't sell it to the clients. They can buy like a mineral removing shampoo that's not as strong as cleansing cream. But yeah, so basically there's loads of brands out there. You just need to have a little kind of look-see, find a product that is specifically designed to remove minerals. Maybe let's have a little Google in a second and see if I can find something for you. But let's answer a few more questions before we do that. I also want to show you the breakdown of this head, but the color questions are becoming thick and fast, so we'll keep going. What is the color reflection? What is the color reflection? That's quite a broad question, Sam and Jess. When you say reflection, because every color's got its own reflection. So, for instance, beige is like a reflection that comes through the color, or like tan is a reflection, or brown is a reflection. That's the base hue. So yeah, just would like to kind of clarify what you mean by what the reflection is there, and I'll be able to answer that for you. If you F up your highlights, use alkaline. Well, yes, I guess so. I mean, that's if you over process them, you would bring back the some of the quality of the hair by using an alkaline demi-permanent as a toner. Pravana, there we go. Cool, right, Pravana, that's good. They have an acidic demi-permanent. Good to know, Perry. Thank you very much. I would, there's lots of products that come onto the market, so it's good to know that, these things are happening because, for instance, Redken had the market for so long and didn't have anybody with a truly acidic demi-permanent that, hi Carmen, that, it was very, lots of people just didn't believe that it was better. But then obviously, as time grew on and Redken Shades EQ grew to be the biggest demi-permanent in the world, people started to listen. Is dye liked by L'Oreal? Right, sorry, I just missed a few things here. Jane, clarifying shampoos. Yeah, clarifying shampoos, cleansing shampoos. They're all in the similar family. What we got else here? I think most clarifying shampoos are alkaline, like the Malibu. Yes, that particular shampoo. That's what I said. I do know there are some alkaline shampoos out there, but cleansing shampoos tend to be acidic based. They use acidity to help to remove the product, because obviously taking the hair alkaline isn't necessarily gonna, it's always gonna decrease the quality of the hair. So usually when we're talking about alkaline, we're talking about color removal, because when we turn the hair alkaline, one, the cuticles open, and two, the alkaline starts to dissolve either natural or unnatural color pigments in the hair, and so therefore we're starting to remove color. Whereas if we had a product that we were selling to a consumer, generally speaking, we wouldn't want it to be a product that they could use regularly and deteriorate the quality of their color. So there are some alkaline products out there, but it's very, very difficult to recommend using alkaline colours unless you're going for the kind of full colour removal service, if you will. And in the professional case, yes, you know, it's a really interesting thing, you know, for us guys to be able to have those to our, but I've never struggled with something that was very acidic, like a 2 or 3 on the acidity scale. Right, good. Have you ever tried Olaplex shampoo? I'm really loving it. Yes, I have tried it and I really like it. I've missed a question above that, which on tones would say that black is the darkest blue. Effectively, yes. When we look at colour pigmentation and where colour pigmentation sits on the colour wheel, which I'll just bring up now just so everyone can see. Where's that gone? Where's it gone? Oh, so it's on my phone. Hold on a minute. I shall show you. Just got to remember where I put it now. That's the next trick. Where did you put it, James? Where did you put it? There it is. There it is. There it is. Right, great. So when we look at where 1 sits, it sits right by blue because blue is the densest pigment. So when we think about blue, it is the densest pigment. The molecules are very, very dark. So black is effectively the darkest blue, yes. That's why lots of ranges will have like a 1B or a 1-1, a blue-black kind of colour. Right then, Daniel, is Dialight by L'Oreal good as an acidic demi? Want to try it? Yes, effectively, it is, like, from a visual perspective, Daniel, it is, yes. It is you know, it looks great. I've used Dialight hundreds of times. I've used Rich S hundreds of times. They look fantastic. But in the context of just unpause myself because I paused myself. But in the context of hair quality, you know, they're living in the alkaline side of things. So, for instance, if we're in the journey of correcting the damage we've done, we take it off with an acidic shampoo, bring the pH down. I then condition the hair before I tone to bring the pH down even further, because remember, not all, but generally hair color is designed to go on dry hair. There are a few that are designed to go on wet hair, but generally they're designed to go on dry hair. So that means the hair would be of a natural pH 4.5 to 5.5, so the cuticles will be pretty closed at that point. So remember, it's designed to go on hair with closed cuticles. So that's where when people will say, but conditioner will get in the way. The conditioner shouldn't get in the way. If the conditioner's getting in the way, then it's just crap conditioner, excuse my French. You know, it's putting stuff into the hair to artificially seal the hair. It's not, you know, it's putting in all sorts of mad stuff, you know, rubbers and stuff to create a sense of smoothing. So shampoo, condition, tone. Now, obviously, if we're using that alkaline toner, we're going to go back up. We're going to take it the opposite way, where my thought process is all about bringing it back down. So we shampoo, condition, tone. We bump it back up a bit more alkaline, and then we're going to say shampoo and tone and condition again, and we're going to bring it back down. But if we shampooed and conditioned again and we hadn't put something on it that was alkaline, then we'd be even closer to the natural pH. But remember, we can't be at the natural pH until the hair is fully dry anyway. Just something to remember. So, where have we got to? I really want to know if Dialight is acidic. I just out of curiosity, because I've never thought about it specifically, because of the, is L'Oreal Dialight acidic? Okay. I will stand corrected. It is a Dialight is an, let me just go down. Dialight, let's go down. Dialight is an acidic demi-permanent gel cream hair colour without ammonia used to gloss and tone and refresh hair. Very good. So that is, let me just see. So that was updated 5 months ago. I'm on the L'Oreal professional website. So maybe it's just become alkaline. So that's good information for everybody. L'Oreal Dialight is alkaline. Fantastic. Good stuff. Thank you for that, Daniel. You have enlightened me too. What is your favourite colour lines looking for a new one? Well, everybody, just throw out your favourite colour lines because everybody's using different ranges. I use Redken. I use all sorts, actually, to be honest. I've got no specific favourites. I love Shades EQ. I just love the way it looks. I love the way it makes the hair feel. And I really, really like it. But yeah, everyone throw out what you're using, what you're loving using. From a permanent colour perspective, I don't think I've ever found a permanent colour that I truly love. But from a demi-permanent perspective, you know, I love Shades EQ 100%. So yeah, there we go. Let's see what people are using, and you can pick the majority. There you go. Right, what else we got here? What's your favorite color line? Advice on getting Shades EQ to last on hair more than 3 or 4 washes. Good question, Riley. 2 to 3 washes. Well, that is a very short space of time indeed. I never specifically had that kind of problem. Are we talking about, just so I can clarify some context, is it onto blonde hair, or are we just talking generally? Just so I can clarify. Dialight. Dialight is a semi-permanent. Dialrich S is a demi-permanent. Dialight is a lovely as a toner. Agreed, Kerry. I've gone Platinum Bond by accident. How do I tone down to pale ash? Good question. Very tricky to answer that one. Do you have shampoo client first for colouring or balayaging? Well, it depends. No, not specifically. If they've got a build-up of products on their hair, Jamie, if they've got something that might be a contraindication to your service that will prevent you getting a good result, then yes, I would shampoo it. If they've got like a root spray on and you're trying to cover up white hairs, then yes, I would shampoo it. Things like that. But other than that, no. Just go straight in, even on the dirtiest hair. It will usually, I mean, unless it's extreme, you know, but then it becomes a bit of a contraindication. Okay, let's see what we've got here. Angela's Affinage, Daniel is Weller. Love it. Weller, love it. Redkin, Joico, and Matrix. That's a bit like me, apart from the Joico. I use all sorts of stuff. Weller, unprelightened hair. Okay, lovely. Thank you, Riley. I'll get back to you on that one. Shades EQ plus Weller, fantastic. I think Dialight replaced the jelly colour they used to have, which was a lovely, probably acidic too. Can use acidic colour on white hair. Generally speaking, you won't get good grey coverage. You'll get very, very translucent grey coverage on white hair. Just a thought. You can get what like that very, when we're talking about opacity, you'll get a very, very opaque finish when we're colouring onto white hair, natural white hair. So back to A. O'Reilly's question. So it's always porosity. If it's not holding, it's porosity, 100%. So one of the things that you can do is shampoo, condition, close the cuticles down, towel dry or dry the hair completely, and then apply it to dry or very thoroughly towel dried hair. That will increase the longevity of the colour, hopefully. I mean, they're the steps that, you know, the best steps that you can take. Another great product from Redken is called Redken Cat. Shampoo, cat, condition, dry, tone. I know that's very, very long-winded, but you will get fantastic long-lasting results. They're the best results you can get. I did a video about putting colour on to towel dried, soaking wet, and dry hair, and the thoroughly towel dried came out very, very similar, so close to the dry hair. In fact, what it was a little bit darker onto the towel dried hair, but that makes sense because the pH was higher because the hair was wet. Shades EQ is designed to go on dry hair, and when the pH is higher, you'll get more color deposit into the hair, but you'll also get it wash out a bit easier. But in my testing, you get a slightly darker color than you were expecting when you put it onto wet hair. Hopefully that helps you. Right then, what else we got here? Shades EQ for quality of hair afterwards. Nice, Tina. Could you talk through clarifying shampoos again? Let me just see. You said many are acidic with low pH, close the cuticles. Would that trap in debris in the hair? That is a great question and one that I can't answer. Would that trap debris in the hair? I don't think so. Can't think it would. I mean, that's a bit like saying if you put a conditioning treatment on, they're designed to close the cuticles and put back missing nutrients and oils and etc. I don't. Well, I don't know. I actually don't know. I'd love to find somebody that knew the answer to that, but I personally don't know the answer. But it's a fantastic question. In fact, I'm going to take a picture of it because that is a question that has never gone through my mind. So snap a picture of that. Great. Right, next question. Sorry I can't answer that one, but don't know everything, that's for sure. James, I have a client, waist length hair, super thick hair, natural level 6. I've been colouring her hair level 3 past 5 years. After lockdown, she wants to go back to at least a 6. Any advice? I would go in with a colour remover. First of all, take out the colour, any unnatural pigments in the hair. You're going to be exposing reds and oranges because, generally speaking, even if you're darkening the hair, the alkalinity of the colour in the tube mixed with the peroxide creates something called simple bleach. Simple bleach. Peroxide and alkaline products make simple bleach. They damage the natural color pigments and allow new colors to go back into the hair because you've bleached away the existing ones, and the process of bleaching isn't necessarily as we all think. A simple bleach is corrosive by nature and it corrodes the natural color, allowing room for new color to take over. So when you do a color remover, you will see reds and oranges. The hair hasn't been bleached in a traditional sense. It has just simply had the unnatural color pigments removed, and then what will then replace those unnatural color pigments is your new color that you put on. But you'll have to combat on a level 6, on a level 3, you're going to be combating reds and oranges. So you're going to have to go in with a blue-green shade afterwards on a level 6 to kind of have any chance of having any kind of neutral results. But because when you're on a level 6 and you're using a blue-green color, you will end up with a darker end result, more like a level 5, because ash absorbs light, so it looks perceptively darker. I hope that helps. Where are we at? Right then. I find your ponytail method good for people who section too small. Yes, it definitely is good for people who section too small, for sure. It stops that people taking those tiny little sections as well. That's a definite plus. And it's very quick and express, so it's good for salon life. What color? Let me just say, what color would you recommend as a starter kit for Shades EQ? What colors would you recommend for starter kit for Shades EQ? I'd recommend the blondes because the Shades EQ blondes are really nice. So things like 10N, 10VV, 10GV. Actually, where's that gone? Oh, very Oh no, it's over there. Got some 10GV, which is the new shades. They came today. I've also got some white bottles here. I know I used that as a peroxide bottle earlier, but these are unreleased Redkin new conditioning, acidic conditioning range. Can't talk too much about it. But looking forward to give those a go when I've got someone to shampoo their hair, apart from myself. So yeah, there's some cool stuff. So yeah, 10GV, 10V, 10N, 10T, 9T, 8T, 8N, 9N, 10P, 9P, 8P. The blondes, the cool blondes are really nice. 10G's really nice. 9G's really nice. 9AA, which is Auburn, which is like a sort of strawberry blonde colour, is really nice. You can just DM me if you want. 10GI is beautiful. Air Riley, perfect. 10GV is like a amplified version of that Air Riley, just in case you're wondering. So yeah, drop me a DM if you want. I'll give you some other suggestions in there. Let me see what we've got here. There we've got Love Colliston reds, but other than that, I use a few different. Good. Right then, where are we? Oh, I've lost my chat. All right, okay. Elizabeth, do you use Redkin Lacquers reds? Do you like Redkin Lacquers reds? Yuck. Do I like them? Can't say I dislike them, but they're not the best reds in the world. There are better reds out there for sure. So I can't say I like them because they're very natural reds. But if you want an unnatural red, if you want something really vibrant, really punchy, then no, they're not the best reds in the world. Right, okay, next question. No, because water opens cuticle. Elizabeth Camp. Not sure what that was relating to. What's your favourite colour remover? I really like Rusk colour remover, but you have to neutralise it really well. Otherwise, when you put the peroxide with your new colour, if you use a permanent colour on top of it, you're really in trouble. So you do need to use a true demi, like a Shades EQ, over the top of it. So yeah, just like bear that in mind. Use a pure demi over. But Rusk, I really like it. It really doesn't really feel like it's doing much damage to the hair. It's like a gel formation. Has anybody used Oven Pride that you put inside your oven to like make your oven new again? It feels like you're mixing up Oven Pride and then putting it on someone's hair. Which is a little bit scary, I've got to admit. Okay, right, let's answer a few more questions, and then I'm going to jump on to why we came here tonight to talk about the pre-sectioning and some of the theory from the balayage, and then we're going to wrap it up. So, K-Pat, I answered this one when it was up at the beginning. I don't know if you heard me say it. How can you correct stripy highlights level 8 to 9 from roots on medium ash brown to get a caramel balayage? I have a video on how to correct stripy highlights. If you go to YouTube, you go to the search bar, you put The Life of Hair, how to correct stripy highlights. It will pop up. There's a video there. If that doesn't help you, then send me a DM on Instagram, Facebook. I'll try and give you some more help. Hopefully that helps you. Hi from India. What is the best way to check hair porosity on a client in the salon? I'm not going to answer that one if that's all right, because I'm going to do a video about it in probably Sunday. So just so that everybody knows, that's one that I decided to do, a special request one, if you like. I made a video about consultations a few weeks ago, and I mentioned about the testing in there. And so last couple of weeks, I've made that video on and off, and it'll be finished by the weekend, hopefully, as long as one thing arrives in the post. But I won't talk about it because it'll ruin it. 10GI is beautiful. We talked about that. Sorry if I've already answered this, but what do you recommend for toning level 7 and 8? Not to be too warm. Depends on the warmth you're trying to kill, but when you're on a 7 and 8, if we think about the undertone of what's on a 7 and an 8, so if we go to our color wheel and then we look at 7 and 8 as a color, 7 is orange for sure. and 8 sits in between orange and yellow. So you're going to need a lot of ash. So 7A, 7T if you're looking at Redken Shades of Q, 7.1 if you're using L'Oreal, 7.1 if you're using Weller, 7.11, 7.21, 7.12, something with a lot of blue in it to really crush that orange and make sure that you end up with an even tone. Also, if you really want to get rid of it, always go a shade darker. So, for instance, if you're on an 8 and you want to ensure that you're going to get 100%, warmth neutralization, drop down to a 7 and then use that ash tone as well. Then you will definitely get rid of all that warmth. If you can only stay on level, then you need the most amount of warmth killing possible. Lots of ranges have additive colors to them. So you can add in extra blue or extra violet to help you neutralize that. But obviously violet is weaker in terms of neutralization than blue is to orange. When we look at the color wheel, violet is neutralizing more yellow tones. So it will do a little bit of work in the 8 realms, but it won't do a huge amount of work to a 7. So you really do want the opposing tone. Okay, hopefully that helps. We didn't we by the way, we didn't cover that, so that's good. Right then, where are we? What is the best highlight color to choose for dark hair like Indian hair? Highlight color, do you mean color or bleach? Because obviously bleach is bleach. I mean, generally speaking, there's bleach will bleach your hair and it will lift it up. You'll probably want a stronger bleach. You'll probably want to leave it in foil to get the maximum amount of lift. For instance, if we're talking about colouring the hair lighter, I tend to use high lift tints or, things with high levels of peroxide. One thing that you then will encounter is when you use a high level of peroxide with a tint, that high level of peroxide will cause some damage to the tint itself. So always put in additives like blue tones and green tones to neutralize out the natural warmth that is exposed in, darker Indian, anyone with dark hair, but it doesn't have to be Indian, it can be anybody with dark hair. You're going to expose a lot of reds and oranges. So putting colors in there that will help to neutralize that is very important. And also making sure you are using those 40 volumes. I mean, 40 volume on scalp, straight from root to tip, you will get hot roots. So always use one level lighter, one level less on the roots in peroxide terms. You can use the same color, but you probably want to do like 30 volume going into 40 volume for the ends where the hair's coldest. Just a hot tip there. Good question though. How do you create baby pink with color tube when we don't have the color? Well, it very much depends on the range, but most ranges have a clear shade. Clear can be mixed with any of the colors, generally speaking, within their family, and then they will help to dilute that color. So like, for instance, if I was going to make baby pink out of Redken, I would get the darkest red, and then I would dilute that darkest red to pink. A specific ratio is very difficult. You have to do your own experimenting within your own ranges, because I've tried to give advice based on what I know with certain ranges, but then it doesn't necessarily translate very well. So go and play with some colors and clear, but always use the darkest one because it's got the most pigment. Right then, let me see what we got here. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Lovely. Great. Right. Well, the questions have dried up. So let's just jump quickly onto the head sheet here and just talk about last week's breakdown of the technique we did. Just very, very simple pre-section for all of it, really. We really didn't go too crazy with the way that we pre-sectioned everything. That's this mannequin head down on the floor here. If anybody's wondering, they've joined a bit later and they missed the beginning. I will just do a little bit of a diagram scenario. Right then, so we split the head down the centre back, just like so. So when we pre-sectioned for this balayage technique, we split it down the centre back, just like that, as you see on the screen. Then we took 45-degree diagonal sections that were 2 to 3 inches off of the hairline. Like that. So we were working in 45-degree diagonal forward sections, working a minimum of 2 inches in between each section, and actually preferably you'd probably want to be more like 2.5 to 3 inches in between each section, so that you make sure that you've got the contrast. So the red lines are the hair that we would have painted, the top of the section. I'm going to show you how we saturated the sections in a minute in a little diagram. Do the opposite side just for the sake of continuity. Okay, so that would be how we would go through the back sections. Really, really important to remember that. Now we just take a quick look at the sides. So the hair was split from high point on the head down towards the ear. You know, where the high point and the ear fits on someone's head, it's very difficult to say. But obviously on this particular lady, it's right at the front of her ear. And then, so in the back, we had those 45-degree diagonal forward sections like this. And then in the front, we had 45-degree diagonal backward sections, which I'll show you right now. So at the back, they were going forwards, and at the front, they were going back. Just like that. Okay. So a really, really incredibly simple but super effective sectioning pattern. And then this is the killer bit. This is the bit that everybody's like, oh, what, why? Okay, so we're going to imagine, I'm just going to draw a little diagram for everyone to see. So here is, in fact, I'm going to do this slightly differently. Change of plan. So the black hair, or the black triangle, is the section of hair elevated out from the head. So as if we're holding the hair out from the head, okay, like so. The only part that we will be painting is the surface of the hair. We're not saturating the hair underneath. It's just surface painting. So it's a full saturation. We're putting on loads of products. We're painting in V-shaped formations for the most of it. There are some diagonal back sections around the face to avoid too many points of light, but you guys can go back and watch the video if you want to on the Patreon channel. But to avoid too many points of light, especially where there isn't all that much hair quite often in this area, just painting diagonally backwards from the hairline, really important to remember that we don't end up with too many points of light. It's a visual technique, guys. It's about you being artists and painting hair as you see it. And so that's where I know it can be a little bit scary, because it's like anything, until you've done it a few times, until you've immersed yourself in it, you want something that's very rigid to follow. The pre-section to this is very rigid. Hot cross bun section or 4 quadrants. A diagonal section to get yourself started, diagonal backwards section. Sorry, a diagonal forwards section to get yourself started. Work your way through that 2.5 inches minimum, and you're only brushing the product onto the surface. Practice on a mannequin head, just like this one. Grab yourself a cheap mannequin head off eBay or Amazon. There's some links in the bottom of my descriptions on my YouTube videos. Right at the bottom is the mannequin heads that I sometimes use. You just have to bleach them for a little bit longer. They take about 90 minutes to 2 hours to lift, but once they lift perfectly fine. They look, you know, the results look great. You've just got to be a bit patient. So yeah, hopefully that will help you guys understand that balayage can be very simple. You know, like this is incredibly simple in its kind of conception. You know, we've split the hair into 4 equal sections, 4 equal quadrants rather, and we've taken sections that are 2.5 inches to 3 inches apart, taking diagonal 45-degree diagonal sections. So if we're thinking about a diagonal, always aim at the corner of something and then put the 2 points that meet each other. So you can do it in the room. You can find somewhere like a corner of a wall, put the 2 points on the corner of the wall, and that will be a 45 for you. So if you're not sure what a 45 is, then, you know, because 45 is the perfect diagonal, and diagonals create, everyone, last question of the night, what do diagonals create? Drop it in the comments box. What do diagonals create? You answer me a question. Blend, good. Softness, Gary, perfect. Blend and softness. 2 first answers, absolutely smashed it out of the park. Blend and softness, because the softs and blend, perfect. Softness, good stuff, everybody. Perfect, Angela. Yeah, softness. So when we create a diagonal line, it's not like a vertical line that creates length up and down, or a horizontal line that creates width, because our eyes are naturally drawn to follow the lines. When we tilt the lines and our eyes are straight, it's very hard to follow the lines, so they naturally diffuse the way that things look. So hopefully that will help you understand why diagonals are important. And also when we were painting the sections, one last little diagram. We'll just jump on to this one. Just get rid of all this. Before I talk about actually the shapes we're using, one thing to remember, one thing that I want to just remind everybody is when we're painting balayage, can you see that this section is effectively over-directed? How do we know it's over-directed? Because it's longer here and shorter there. It's longer here and shorter there. That means it's been over-directed out of its natural fall. We don't balayage hair out of natural fall, because when we put the section down, the hair will twist, and that could create the hair being in places, the bleach being in places we don't want it to be. So remember that we need to put our sections, pull our sections out from the head in the place they're going to fall. Okay, They need to be in the place they're going to fall. So just remember that for future reference. When you're standing and balayaging, move your body so the hair is in natural fall. And then when we colour these sections, we'll generally be using V shapes just to make sure that we are creating contrast and blend. So when you see this in a second, my rudimentary squiggle, the red is the natural hair, the uncoloured hair, and the black is the bleach. We're using V-shaped. We're using V-shaped chevron type shapes to create this with our natural hair left out in the middle. Very, very important to remember. Right then, ladies and gentlemen, you have spent 80 minutes of your time with me today, this evening, this afternoon, this morning, dependent on where you are in the world. And for that, I am hugely appreciative. It really, I know you guys come here to learn some stuff, hopefully, but I love spending time with you guys. I really, really do. And doing these lives. I'm going to be live again on Wednesday at 9 p.m. GMT. So if you think of any other questions between then and now, I haven't really thought of a topic just yet, but I will come up with something. I've been toying with a few topic ideas and I haven't settled on one just yet, but I'll come up with something. But I'll definitely just be here again Wednesday night, be on YouTube again, sorry, on Wednesday night, live, 9 p.m. GMT. So I look forward to maybe seeing some of you again. Claire, see you on Wednesday. Okay, thanks a lot, guys. Thank you. Thanks for your appreciation. I shall see you in the next one. Look after yourselves. Ciao.